everybody doing? Good, good. Been up since about 5 o'clock. I get up every morning now. I don't know why, but I listen to a lot of motivational people speak and a lot of successful people, and they talk about getting up early and doing what you need to do, getting ahead of people instead of waiting for them to get there with you. You beat them, and you don't have to work as hard as they do. But it's been challenging these last 4 weeks I've been doing this, but I'll start off by saying this. I've been a part of a team for my whole life. When I was a young man, my dad always told me, you're Mitchell, you can do anything. I was in the 5th grade. I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and we basically lived on a farm where we had to put the posts down into the ground and build our fences. And as a 5th grader, I was rather small. And my dad made me realize at that moment that, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, we can't accomplish all the things that we need to accomplish. Now, I can tell you all that night, I slept. And I slept for a long time because it also taught me that hard work basically pays off. The word team means together everyone achieves more. But if you're going to have a great team, you have to have teamwork to encourage all members with obedience and right knowledge. So as I go through this thing, I'm going to give you different little words and different little sayings I've heard along the way and let you understand how it impacted me throughout my life. The first thing is have the ability to listen. Many people heard about Coach Joe Gibbs, where he would be in meetings and they would be there all the time, where he would sleep at the complex, which means all the other coaches was probably sleeping there too. So me being a person who asks questions all the time, which I'll talk about a little later, I was like, Ernest, why are y'all there all the time? He said, well, man, you wouldn't believe it, but normally every time we speak for an hour to 2 hours, the first thing we come up with is the thing that we end up doing. But what Joe Gibbs believed in was allowing everyone to give their input on it. And I think that's the thing that happens a lot of times with us, and when we get into different teams and different groups, we don't want to listen to everybody. If we're the leader, we think our job is to just go out there and demand and dictate and make people understand what we're doing. And if we're the smaller person, we're afraid to ask questions. But if we were to realize that it's everybody's opportunity to talk and everybody's opportunity to listen, great things begin to happen. So the first thing, make sure you listen and make sure you give people that respect when they come up, because I don't know if we want to sit here and talk about the same thing for the next hour to 4 hours, but if we had the opportunity, I think people, if you're listening to people, if you're paying attention to what they're truly saying, they may be saying something that you're thinking. But if you're only waiting for your chance to begin to talk, your chance to speak, and you're not focusing on what they're saying, you're going to miss out on something. And I'm sure you would want them to sit there and give you that same respect that you gave them. Next thing, check your ego at the door. We all had that opportunity to deal with that at one point. And I'm going to go back to 87. I was the starting quarterback of our football team. I felt that whatever I said, thought, or wanted, I was supposed to get, and it was supposed to go right. And it got to a point one day where they just hired a guy as our grad assistant. And when I was younger, my dad always told me, always respect authority. Well, grad assistant didn't say coach, so I kind of dismissed him as authority. And we got into this argument on the bus. We were coming back from a movie, and the coach told me to sit down and shut up. And telling me to shut up when I was young, a little hothead, was the wrong thing to do. And at that moment, I forgot about team. All I thought about was Brian Mitchell. And I thought about my ego. And I gave this guy some choice words that I felt I wouldn't want somebody to give me. I think that's one thing we can remember too. Just do what you would expect someone to do to you. Well, that night the coach called me, Coach David Culley called and said, you're not playing tomorrow, you're not going to be playing in the game, and if you don't change your attitude, you won't be playing here again. I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll go to another school. So I dialed my father's number. Dad, come pick me up, I'm leaving this school. And my dad, being a military guy and understanding, and he knew who I was, he said, what did you do? And I'm like, I can't tell you what I did. Because Coach Stokely had sat in our living room and said, I will make sure your son accomplishes everything he wants to accomplish. If he just does the things that if he do the things that he needs to do, he's going to accomplish everything he wants to accomplish. So my dad said, well, I want you to sit there, son. After he made me, we had this little thing where open conversation. Whenever my dad said open conversation, I could say whatever I said, no matter what words I chose to use, and I didn't get in trouble. Well, I told him the words that I used, and he said, well, you know what, you sit there. I'm going to call the coach, and we're going to decide what we're going to do with you. And at that moment is when David Culley told the coach, if you play Brian Mitchell, I quit. And me sitting there still worried about me, not understanding I'm supposed to be the leader of the team. And if the leader of the team is acting up, the rest of the people on the team are going to start to act up. And the coach told me at that moment, he said, if you're going to be a leader and you're going to be a part of the team, you got to be a leader 24/7, not just when you want to do it. So at that point, I checked my ego and I began to go around and basically give more accolades or compliments to the team and not myself. Because at one point when they said, man, great touchdown, I said, yeah, I did this, I did that. Then all of a sudden it went from, well, hey, Lewis had a great block right there. And as I came through it, Quentin picked up the safety. I began to make sure I gave that respect to the other guys because I'm checking the ego. He told me the one word that Coach Cully said, the little saying, he said, lower yourself and your team will elevate you. And I think that right there worked for me because if I didn't do those things, I wouldn't be standing here right now talking to you all, to be totally honest with you. And then delegation. I've been reading this book. I'm going to show you the book, and when you look at it, you're going to think, oh, my kids probably have that book. It's called Stone Soup. Has anybody ever read this book? It is the simplest reading I ever read in my life, but the most impactful thing. And another book I read was called Who Moved My Cheese. I love those books because it just gets to the point. Stone Soup starts off, you have these 3 monks walking around, and they want to build this, they want to make some soup because this little community, people don't deal with each other, they don't trust anybody, and they go in and they take this pot. And the little girls watch them and say, what are y'all doing? Nobody else was speaking to them, but the little girl spoke to them. And they would say, we're making soup. We're making stone soup. They put the 3 stones in the pot, and they start, get some water, and they start cooking. It's not soup. You're boiling rocks. But then as people begin to see it, and certain people knew that they had carrots, and other people had onions, and everybody began to come together, by the end of the story, you got everyone sitting at a table with a feast because everyone knew what they did the best. And they began to try to go out there and do that. So as a young man, my mother and father basically were the end of that story, where the feast was always at my house. And I was like, Mom, why y'all always cook so much food? We had 7 kids. That's a lot of food to cook anyway. But my mom cooked as if she was cooking for 40, 50 people daily. And when we went out to our gardens and went to fish, we always gave stuff to people. And a little old saying about it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to raise the whole village, to be totally honest with you. And my mom and dad basically made me recognize and realize that as a young age. So at this point, whenever I get involved with anything, I don't care what the group is, what the team is, I'm always trying to lift people, help people, give them something to make their journey easier and also make them understand that I believe in you. So as you're working with a team and you're going through it, you make sure whatever you do well, you say it. You make sure people understand it. And if you are the person who's making the decisions, you can't sit there and make that stay to the side. You got to praise them, make them feel good about it. A lot of people are not as talkative. I wasn't talkative when I was young. I was a guy who sat in class, didn't say a word. I did my work, but I didn't want to say much. I didn't want to make a sudden movement because I felt the teacher was going to call on me. Then I hit the 9th grade, and I had a teacher who was my cousin, Miss Carolyn Brown. I'm sitting down on my hands because I don't want you to call me to say anything about Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not trying to quote the Raven. Never, ever. I didn't want to do it, not never more. So when I sat there and she said, well, great job, Brian. You decided you're going to do the Raven at the little, we had a function at school where we had to quote these poems. And she chose me to do the Raven. I'm like, I don't want to do that. She said, well, you're going to do it. Or you're talking back. No, I'm not talking back because she had a direct line to my father. But she knew I was the quarterback of the football team. And whenever I did something, everybody else were willing to try it. They wanted to follow what I did. So Miss Brown understood to get others to do it, I must make Brian do it. And that began to work for me. All right, show respect. There are people that may not be as put together as some of us. They may not be as open and honest as some of the people are. They may just be introverted. There may be people that don't like to speak up about the ideas. But a lot of times what's been proven is that the person who is the most introverted and doesn't say the most, they probably are critical thinkers. But if you can try and be respectful to them and show them that you care, they come out that shell and they start to talk a little bit more. As a team, if you have this table here, and 3 of you don't ever say anything, and just the other 5 over there always making the decisions. But they may have some quality things. The ideas that come out doesn't have to be your idea. It needs to be the idea of the team. And what I've always learned is that when we come up with an idea, if we are going to be respectful, open, and honest and have discussions about it, and as I said earlier, pay attention and listen to people, that one idea that starts, it may end up being the idea at the end, but it may have different little pieces to it. Some was taken off, some was put on. And then at the end of the group, instead of saying I, instead of saying your, his, hers, you can say our. And when you're involved with the team and you say our success, everybody feels good about it. Everybody feels like they had a part of it. You know, I look at what's happening right in Loudoun County, and I remember getting here, and it was always Fairfax. And then Loudoun County started to creep. But when I started looking around this country, richest county, fastest growing, education, everything is working. So it means you all are you're doing a lot of stuff that I'm already talking about, because I love seeing that when I go around, I go all over this place, all over this country. I've been in Napa Valley, and I'm looking at the money floating around there. I'm like, wow, Loudoun County got more money per capita here. You look Beverly Hills, you see them rolling around, and still Loudoun County is on top. It makes you realize that when you find things, if you think about it, most people, you say Loudoun County around the country, they go, where? They don't know. Because you have something, and you have to keep pushing it out. And if everybody keeps doing the things they've been doing, it's going to get where it needs to go. Question one another. All right? I was that guy where if I know your answer was right, I still ask, why? Because I want you to prove it to me. And a lot of people in class would never ask the question, why? They were afraid. And by me asking that question, and the teacher had to really go do it and do it from start to finish, now you get a better understanding of how to, solve this problem. I look at the little deal with Antonio Brown now leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers, and people may say he was selfish, but you know what? That's a bigger problem going on in Pittsburgh right now than people really understand. You have 2 of your best players end up leaving, and they don't want to have anything to do with the team. You hear people complaining about Ben Roethlisberger, and you hear the general manager comes out and say, well, Ben is a man dealing with 52 kids. What man wants to be called a kid? So that deal is bigger than Antonio Brown. It's what's going on in that locker room. But Antonio Brown has the wherewithal and has the oomph to be able to say something, leave there and get another job, $50-something million. Ooh, I wish I was still playing. I wish I was still playing. But he leaves. But I think what happens is other people on that football team are going to realize that we need to come together, because either you're going to come together as a total team or that thing is going to fall apart. When I thought about successful organizations, I thought about organizations that did it the right way. The Steelers were always one of those organizations. But over the last 2 to 3 years, it's been As the World Turns, Young and the Restless, Guiding Light, All My Children. That's the stories. I used to watch those things when I was younger too with my mom. But it's become all of that. Why? Because for some reason, they forgot about team and teamwork, and people started putting one person on a pedestal. When that general manager came out and said, Ben is a man dealing with boys, you know what he just did? He just told them he's above you, okay? And what does that do for all professional athletes, testosterone-driven men? You just made me say, okay, well, I'm going to show you that I'm the man. So now you got 52 other guys that are doing their own thing, trying to make it happen, and the Steelers have gone from being this team that's always there to now the team that we talk about more as a soap opera. It's keeping up with the Kardashians. Now it's keeping up with the Steelers. That's the way it's been going for them. Coach Joe Gibbs, he was that guy that when I first got here, and he said, man, every time I throw in something, you ask me why. I said, Coach, because I want to know why. Because there may be an opportunity one day where that question why is going to give me a chance to help this football team. And if anybody around here been here long enough, some of y'all look too young to be around in 1990. Laugh at that. That was funny. So 1990, we were playing a game against the Philadelphia Eagles called the body bag game. They hurt 9 people. And in that game, I happened to be backing up 5 of the 9 people that got hurt. The 2 quarterbacks, had a running back, and also 2 punt returners. All of them got hurt, so I'm now in the game at quarterback. And we go down and we score a touchdown, and we come to the sideline, and Coach Gibbs like, man, you did some great stuff out there. Did you feel nervous at all? I said, Coach, I didn't feel nervous because I kept asking you why all those times. So everything that I saw, those whys that I asked showed me. And we were able to go down on the football field, and many people talking about, well, Brian should be playing quarterback. No. Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons, nah, I don't want to see that problem. Didn't want to do it at all. And the next thing is participation. You know, that's the thing about when I got into it a little bit earlier about everybody in the group has to participate. We can't have 53 people when only 45 are doing their job. You know, you can't have 5 people or 6 people, or in hockey you got the goalies and they just say 5-on-5, but it's really 6-on-6. Everybody's not doing their job. When I watch the Capitals a lot, I watch where early on when Ovi was scoring a lot of goals, they weren't winning a lot, I saw everybody doing this. You know, they were just like us. Alexander Ovechkin is a show. He's unbelievable. And if you start to just watch what he's doing, you're not helping the team. So if you have a person leading your group that may be a leader, and they're that star like Alex, and a lot of people look up to him, and they influence a lot of people, and you just sit back and look, you're not helping your team. So what you have to do is start to participate and start to ask questions and start to say, look, I can do this and I can do that. And so all of a sudden now when I'm the leader and I say, well, we need to make sure somebody's going to fly out to Napa Valley and hang out to learn what they're doing out there. Anybody raise their hand to go out there? But you may know somebody who's very good at sitting there and talking with people face to face and trying to influence them and get the information that you need from them. So I can pick you, but if you never say anything, I don't know that. So a lot of times we go, well, it's just me, I don't like to say anything. But they never count me in on anything. Well, if you're not being counted in, you're not trying to kick the door down and be in. You, as a person on a team that's not the actual leader or not the most popular guy, it's your responsibility as much as anybody else to sit there and make sure that they understand what you're capable of doing. So, and when I first got to the Washington Redskins, when I was going through my draft process, they go, well, you know, quarterback in the NFL, you know, you're not as tall. I said, look, I don't care where I play. I just want to help the team. And I said it over and over again. And then I get drafted by the Redskins, and they say, well, the way you're going to make this team is returning kicks and punts. I said, I want to help the team, but I just said I want to return kicks and punts. Because kicks and punts is looking in the air as these guys come to tackle you. So what happens at that point? Now I have to figure out a way to make sure I know that I can depend on those 10 guys blocking for me. So fast forward, we go through 10 years of me being in Washington, so I go to Philadelphia, and I'm asked a question by John Harbaugh. He says, what do you like to do on the football field? What type of blocking schemes do you want, and how do you like to practice? I say, Coach, don't worry about it. Just let them kick the ball, and I will run. And I say, before the end of this week, we'll have all our stuff down. So what I did, I catch the ball, and we always talk about get your butt out the hole. So when you're blocking, you get your butt out the hole. Well, we have a lot of guys that practice, they're just loafing around. So what I learned, at the point now I'm 5'10 and a half, I weigh 221 pounds, I run a 4.41, I run right over my guy. And the guy jumps up, man, what are you doing? I say, if you're in a hole in the game, I'm gonna run over you there too. So the next time I come through there, that guy now, he's all up out the hole. And then when we look at it, all of a sudden in the film, the whole football team is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. So I went out, and we all participated, but I'm going to show you how we're going to participate when the game comes around. And all of a sudden, we played that game that weekend, and Coach is watching the film, and he's laughing because he said, wow. It was exactly what we did in the game because we figured out a way, we did it one way, and everybody did their job. So we had success in that part. And then rational debate is another one. Rational debate is basically debating and being respectful of each other. You know, if you say something, I'm not going to say, oh, that's stupid. That never works in anything. I had a guy call onto my radio show one time, and he said, I'm not going to say that you're a coward, but I said, stop. He said, what do you mean? I said, the next thing you say will not be heard because I'm dealing with that I'm not saying you're a coward part. I said, if you would have started the statement like I didn't understand why you did something, then I'm listening to everything you say because now I want to explain. And it's the same thing in a team setting. When someone says or does something, shouldn't be snickering and giggling and laughing at them, because now you may shut them down that they don't want to help. And in the long run, the whole object is to make sure that the team succeeds, not that my point get across, and not that I go out there and embarrass somebody. So that the same way that that guy was starting off that question that way, when someone says something that you don't believe in, it's easier to say, you know what, some of the things you said I like, but what if we were to try this? You just, that's criticize, critique, but you did it in a constructive manner to where they're going to listen. Now other people start talking and you could debate, and as I said earlier, that same idea now becomes everybody's idea instead of it just trying to be yours, or two people get into a problem. Have you ever noticed that we're involved with something and it's a person I don't like, or you don't like that person or whatever, and now that's who it ends up being, you two. It comes down to what you all are going to do. And do you sit there with your ego, as I said, check at the door, or you sit there so prideful that you're not going to forget that we're trying to make this team be successful and grow? Are you going to argue with the person just because you don't like them? It happens all the time. And I say my kids, I got 3 daughters that live at home and a son who's off, but whenever they get together, they always arguing about something. But they want the same things. I'm like, if y'all just sit back and listen and work with each other, you can get past all of that. But it's the 24-year-old who wants to dictate everything to everybody, my daughter, and my 19-year-old is not having it, and the 16-year-old, she's like, man, please. It's going to happen my way because I have daddy's ear. She does. But if they were to just sit there, because what I'm going to do is walk in and ask questions, and then I'm going to start saying you're wrong and you're wrong. All 3 of y'all wrong. But if you want to get it done, I'm going to leave out this room. If y'all don't get it done, then I'm going to just make sure everybody don't get anything that they want. I still do it. They're 24 years old, and I still treat her the same way. Still my baby, and I'm going to still dictate what happens in my house. So make sure that teamwork works. And then set the right environment. That's the whole thing. When we get there and we're having a meeting, you want everybody to be relaxed, comfortable, or whatever. So whoever that committee is to bring in the refreshments, make sure it's a nice refreshments. Now, if you have a group that can't have a glass of wine and stay on an even keel, you don't want any alcohol at the meeting. You might just want to have sparkling, like some type of sparkling or cider or something like that without any alcohol in it. But it's just knowing what your group is and make sure everybody's comfortable, where they're willing to talk and willing to get all the ideas out so everything can work out. You don't want to have people there feeling uncomfortable, which agitates people, and now all of a sudden it's about them being agitated. Oh, this seat is not comfortable. Oh, we don't have the right refreshments. And you think about all that, now you're losing time on trying to get to the goal of what you want to get done. So when I look at that, I kind of look at it in this way. In the beginning of the week or the beginning of training camp, it's torture. They want us to be in the most uncomfortable position there is. Because what you're trying to find out is those who can handle that and still move forward. As it gets closer to the season, they begin to settle things down a little bit. Because now we have to teach you something because you made it through, like what's called basic training for the military. They make it as difficult as they possibly can for that. So when you get there, now I need to educate you. I need to teach you. So I want you to be more relaxed, more comfortable at that point. And you begin to learn more, because when I send you out to go take care of this country, I want you to know what you're doing. So as we get closer and closer to a game in football, Monday and Tuesday, we don't do much. Wednesday, tough. Thursday, tough. Friday is the easiest day you're going to find until Saturday comes along, where we're dressed just like I am, or we could be on jeans and we're walking through. It's the most, and that day is when coaches are really trying to work on what's here. And everybody can get it because there's nobody trying to hit you, nobody that you have to be worried about, none of that at all. So now you focus solely on the opponent that we have this weekend. That opponent will be whoever it is, the Giants, the Eagles, or whoever. You focus on them instead of now you're still battling each other. So when you make that the environment one that you can have success in, that's the main thing. It's relaxed, it's calm, and you can have success at it. And I'll close by just saying this. If you go out there with a collaborative spirit and you realize that everything that you do is about accomplishing and trying to reach a goal, and it's not about you, it's not about trying to shun somebody else, it's about the goal that we all reach. I met people from Fauquier County, I think it was, I met earlier. If you want to take yours to everybody in that same Chamber of Commerce have to be focused on one thing, making that county as good as they possibly can be, not making me. And that's the thing that I ran into as a young kid where I wanted to be, and I didn't want to just be number one on the football field, I wanted to be number one in everybody's heart. So I always tried to do the Brian Mitchell thing instead of doing the Raging Cajun thing. When I got to Washington, I was lucky enough to come on a team that had a bunch of veteran guys who had won a Super Bowl. But I was smart enough to listen to those guys when they told me everybody has to do their jobs. I'm looking at some of the guys in practice going, that guy is not very athletic. But when I watch him in a football game, everything that guy did, he did it perfectly. He didn't make mistakes, and the coach depended on him. So he was handling. Coach had delegated him to be that blocking guy. He didn't catch passes, but he was the best blocker we could possibly have. And then I went on to Philadelphia, and I found out with Andy Reid. Andy Reid was a guy who came in, and he didn't say, this is my team. You know, coaches like to say, this is my team. Andy Reid went around, and he watched, and he saw who the guys were going to in the locker room. And he had a little delegation of 10 people to where those 10 guys helped him run that football team. And we had a lot of success there. And then what I found out when teamwork doesn't work, my last year in New York, everybody was on their own. You know, they had already said at the beginning of the year that they were going to fire Jim Fossil. And you get in the locker room, you can see the little cliques and the little faction, and everything was going a different way. And I had come from 13 years of watching it done the right way. So I tried to start telling guys, we need to do this, we need to do that. Some people were coming along, while others, nah, we don't want that. And that team, we won 3 games that year. And that's when I knew it was over. Because as a man I was now 35 years old. And I thought in those 35 years, I'd seen a lot and I learned a lot. And I won a Super Bowl. Well, we won a Super Bowl. Change that up. We won a Super Bowl. My team helped me be able to go to a Pro Bowl. You know, me and my wife raised a great group of kids. But all of those things I did, I had somebody along the way to help me. You know, when I begin to start getting ready to talk about a speech or talk about something with people, I don't do it by myself. I have people I call on and say, how should I do this or how should I do that? When Simon gets ready for this, I'm sure he has other people he can deal with. But we all have to depend on somebody. We can't do anything by ourselves. You know, we can mess up by ourselves, I guarantee you that. But if we want to be successful, which normally everything that you're going to be successful at is a group. It's a team. It's an organization. We have to make sure that we're going to give those people around us the opportunity to help us and also give them the respect so they understand that they are a part of it. That's why I'll close out by saying this. When I was talking to my wife one day, I said a strong couple has 2 strong individuals. And so when I started looking at she said, well, what you think about on the football team? I say, the last guy on the bench needs to be as strong as some of their strong guys on their team. She said, well, how do you get there? I say, because I don't ever stop from helping someone. When I was young, Ernest Biner took me under his wing and taught me how to be a professional athlete. I came here able to run a football, but I wasn't a professional athlete. I didn't study on my own, but when he told me you need to be watching film, you need to be studying, I took that and I taught James Strash. And then James Strash taught somebody else. When you watch TV every day, that little commercial pops up where the guy opens the door, and then that lady that he walked through the door, she went and helped somebody else. If we just start helping people out, we do that and bring it more centrally focused on the little groups that we have, success is right there. We'll get there, we'll get wherever we want. Thank you all for giving me some time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Does look like a book that we had when we were in elementary school, huh?
Are you autographing that too?
No, that's mine.
That's yours, right.
I have to read this once a week. Keep me focused.
Good. So now, thank you. I'm going to call you when I need help, if that's all right.
Yeah, cool.
Good.
I'm with that.
So, very good. Thank you so much, Brian.
Right.
Can I get you a cup of coffee, tea?
Coffee be fine.
Yeah. Can we get a cup of coffee, please?
We want to be up here now or we want down there?
Could we have a cup of coffee, please? All right. So let's start with some questions. I'm sure you're itching to ask questions. And I have a couple of people I would like to actually focus in on who have some insights into teamwork themselves. The first person I'd like to ask, and as I do this, please feel free to silently auction over there. And we want to get those bids up. So I'm going to try and find Anna Vanderlak, who I think I see here. who is the Director of Hope for Warriors, and I believe you have some insights into teamwork and what you heard Brian say. So let's get you a microphone. I'm sorry.
Oh, I guess. See how
It's attached to my chest, so that would be embarrassing. It might block me.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Yes, so I am a director of development at Hope for the Warriors, and we are a nonprofit out of the Springfield area. That's where our national headquarters is. We also have brick and mortar locations in Texas, New York, and North Carolina. And we serve veterans, military families, families of the fallen, and we help them and serve them by providing them services. And oftentimes, as you know, a military service member, they're very proud of what they do. They want to serve the country. That's why they're doing what they do. My husband is an active duty Navy aviator, so I do know that from experience. And for him to ask for help is a small miracle. So when he does, it means something. It means something to me, and then that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because these service members, these families, it sometimes takes a lot for them to dig down and say, you know what, I'm somewhere that I don't want to be, or I want my family to have something better, and I really need a little bit of help. And then that's what we do with our organization, and we do it through a lot of different services, through our programmatically, through sports and rec. Maybe they need to be tied to a beloved sport, or maybe they can't run anymore, but they can use fitness as a way of healing the wounds, and we give them races to hand cycle, or they do recumbent biking. So that's just one of the things, as well as critical care, as well as putting them in touch with trained social work if that's needed. So that's just a small snippet of what we do. And one thing that we have found, that we have a lot of remote workers, because as we grow, one thing for us to stay connected as a team and to stay all focused on the goal at hand, because we all have different regions, a different focus, and life gets busy, is we really try to connect using technology and doing a lot of calls and trying to stay connected face to face, because that is a challenge that we find as an organization, is just, we always can't be in the same room, and that helps greatly when you're trying to solve a problem or support each other, but we have to use what we can. And so that's one small thing that we do, and I guess one question too that I have for you. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your speech.
Thank you.
What do you do when you have a lot of remote people and trying to stay connected, and you're like, oh, the team is kind of starting to wander? How do you bring that back together so you're like, yeah, that's what it is?
Well, with us, with NBC Sports Washington, what I do now, I believe in being close to people, because if I can see your face, then I can really tell what's going on. But most of our people are in Stamford, Connecticut. So we always get these, Stanford wants us to do this. And I'm like, well, why don't some of them come down here and say something to us? And they say, well, my boss told me, why don't you say it to them? So basically, I just put together an email one day and said, people would like to see you all instead of just getting our instructions, because normally the instructions only come when we did something wrong. If we do something right, we don't even hear thank you. And the guy came down and sat there and had a meeting with us, and it just lifted morale, because now when I'm hearing something that's not right, or we have a question, we know who he is, and we reach out to him, and it made things a lot better in our company. But normally, I'll be honest, when you don't see the person that's critiquing you, it's a little tough. But you have to realize that, everybody wants to get to, like you said, that common goal, and if you just find a way. And if I wrote the email saying, why don't you come down here and show us how, probably wouldn't work. I wouldn't have that job anymore. But it worked out, and the thing of it, I've always felt in everything I do, I say leadership is something that you have in you. It's not something that you learn. And I've always felt that way, because as a young kid, my brothers were asking me questions, and I'm like, why? I'm younger than you. You should know that. And I hear people, I'm that guy, I'm nosy. I eavesdrop, yep. Because when I hear complaints around the office, I go to the bosses and say, hey, we need to do something about it. Because if you don't catch it before it gets out of hand, they never hear it. because they're in their offices or they're sitting there in a meeting all day. But I'm sitting and guys are complaining to me, and I can also, because people don't complain quietly anymore. And if you just follow their social media, they'll tell you stuff. You know when things are changing with them. And I make sure that they know, and I think a lot of times they respect that fact that I'll come and let them know something. And I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it to make sure that we keep this thing going, because the people behind the scenes are way more important than the guys in front of that camera. Because if they don't do their job, you would never see nobody smiling on TV. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. So my next plant, if you like, is Jay Garant, who's the Director of Business and Community Development at Fairfax County Public Schools, which I imagine is a huge team-building, teamwork challenge. So tell us your insight, please.
Thank you, Simon. So Brian, I want you to think about some people other than the head coach, because I don't want to surprise you with my question, right? So think about some assistant coaches, maybe the equipment manager, some other leaders that you dealt with at the Redskins. So I work for Fairfax County Public Schools, and I think one of the more innovative things that this school system did over the last 5 years was create positions called instructional coaches. And an instructional coach is a teacher of teachers. So a teacher's job is to, create a team of students, and those students are to learn. But teachers often work very independently, not working with others. So it's important, therefore, for a school to build a team and a climate and to have those best practices always brought forth. And it's been wildly successful in our school system. And I'm really proud of the program because my wife has been a teacher of teachers. She's been one of these coaches. And she used to practice on me some of the language that they use, the we and all those other things. And I could usually pick up on it. But it was always a good lesson in teamwork and whatnot. So Brian, my question for you is, when you think back at your time with the Redskins, and please don't go to the Eagles, okay?
I got you.
Or the Giants. We're talking Redskins.
I probably would never go to the Giants. That wasn't a good experience.
Who were some of the other leaders that might not have had the title of leadership, and how did they help you and other teammates become a better team?
Monty Coleman was on the football team, and Monty Coleman was that guy. I don't know if you remember the saying when E.F. Hutton speaks or something like that, people listen. Well, when Monty Coleman spoke, people listened because he had 25-inch arms. And but Monty had played, I think, at that point, 14 years or 15 years or something like that. And I picked up a lot of the things that Monty did, where he walked around the locker room, but he didn't say anything, but he heard everything. And then later on, he's like, hey, B-Mitch, I need to talk to you about something. And I'll sit down, and he would pick up on things. Because like as I said, listening in the room, Monty was a guy who helped me become a better guy. Ernest Biner, Jeff Bostic. Jeff Bostic was a center. And as a former quarterback, I thought the center was the smartest person on the football team because he called the defense. I just walked into the line of scrimmage, and I'll point where he told me to point. So Jeff was the guy who I sat down, and he taught me football. And in the process, we developed this great friendship where I learned more about life with him. But when I look at a coach, Don Bro was my running back coach. And Don Bro was from Lake Charles, Louisiana. Don had complete white hair. I'm 22 years old. And every rap song I named, he sung. So one day I said, Coach, why do you know all these rap songs? He said, well, if I'm going to deal with young people, I got to know what they bounce to. So he basically went into our mindset, and he would sometimes in the meeting he'll be up there doing plays and he'd be rapping songs, and we're like, what the hell? But now everything the walls that I had that I was afraid to say something to him or go ask questions, it was down, because I found out that he was trying to figure out who I was, which made me even more interested in finding out who he is and learning from him. And the stuff that meant, I was a quarterback for 9 years before I got to the NFL. And in 1 year, Coach Gibbs told me, I'm going to give you a year to learn the job, and then the next year you compete for it. I was able to compete for the job and keep my job. So those guys really helped us out. And then Art Monk, Art didn't talk much, but that just taught me about, people always say there's no I in team, and I believe there is a me. And your job is to make sure you are the best me you can be so you can help a team grow. And Art Monk was definitely that guy. where he was always ready. You didn't hear anything, but you always saw what he was doing.
Very good, thank you. There's a question over here. Would you introduce yourself? Yes.
Hi, I'm Sonarak Ing. I'm with Cox Business. Bob is my boss. And I just, I wanted to touch on some of the things being in sales, I communicate a lot, and you talked about, Stanford, come on, say it to my face, and then you go ahead and put together a nice email. So I've always thought that communication, I've loved the phrase that communication is an art, but, it's a skill. People say it because it's a skill, but it's actually, when you say communication is an art, it can also be interpreted differently. So I could say one thing and offend you, but totally get, the other person would totally get what I'm trying to say. And in your instances, I think, can you talk about how you've had to change what you want to say to what you do say, because communication and teamwork is crucial, but how you say something is very impactful on how you get the team to come together.
I'm still learning that, to be totally honest with you, because I'm a straight shooter, and I think the whole thing about it is I don't mean harm, but I don't believe in talking about something all day. And I think as people get to know me, and as I get to know them, like at work, I know some guys I can say, what did you just say? If I say that to the other person, they're going to be so, they're going to think I'm really mad when I'm not. And then on TV, if anybody ever watched me on TV, you ask me a question about the Redskins, I'm telling you what I truly believe. And some of the times, the park, as they call it, they get upset, but they never question it. And because my thing is, I've always put a thing, if you think something, if you're offended by something I say, make sure you ask the question first, because I will explain to you exactly what I mean. And I think that's what you have to open, like you said, open that line of communication with people. Because a lot of times I say things that people interpret the wrong way. What I realize is that people never hear when you say good stuff. They only remember when you say bad stuff. I can praise that team for 55 minutes of a show and then at the end critique something that happened. The next day, you would think the fans outplayed for the other team, because the fans are mad at me, fans are mad, people over there are mad. And then when I explain it again on the next show, they go, oh, but they already cursed me out, so I can't get past that. But I think really it comes down to making sure they know who you are and they have to see who you are, because you can't change sometimes your delivery. How can you say you don't, like, I didn't agree with that? Somebody is going to understand, okay, well, let me explain it to you. The next person will, you never agree with what I'm saying. No, I didn't say that. I didn't agree with what you just said. But you have to still talk through it. And that's the whole, because I'm telling you, I'm still learning, because I upset a lot of people just because I'm straightforward, and I try to be, I laugh all the time to try to make sure they understand. I like to joke, I like to laugh, but I guess I play football a little crazy, and I'm judged based on how I play football. I'm absolutely telling you the truth. People judge me based on how I play. I haven't played since 2003. But I am judged based on that. I'm like, look, I'm not that person. If I was, you think my daughters will love me? You think my son would care? My wife would still be with me? I'm not that person that I was on the football field, but when I got on the field, I just transformed.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joe Martin. I am John's counterpart at the Fauquier Chamber of Commerce. I was talking to Brian earlier, that's my job now, but I actually was born and raised in Manassas and been a longtime Redskins fan. And my family's dealership, some of you may remember Dudley Martin Chevrolet. We were big supporters of the Redskins. Bobby Mitchell drove one of our cars, Darryl Green, and great folks, by the way. But my question is, and John can attest to this, we wouldn't have the chambers that we have if it wasn't our connection with our community. Next month we have a Valor Awards where we honor our public safety folks who have gone above and beyond the call of duty. But my question to you is, when you talk about teamwork, whether it's one of our businesses, whether it's the Redskins, whether it's our chambers, how important is, or talk to how important engaging the community is in that part of teamwork? I mean, not just fans, all the community.
Well, that's most important, because since I got here, I noticed that Darryl Green, somebody you spoke of, Ernest Biner, art month. Every weekend they were doing something. And I was like, why? You know, back to that question, why? And they said, well, man, you got to make sure people know that you're more than just a football player. And I think that's the reason why I'm out a lot, you know, because you see us play, you think that's who we are, but we're just like you. We worry about education. We worry about how the roles are. We worry about the things that are going on in the community. And then once you begin to come out, people will realize that you're not just, and that's what I loved about the Redskins too. Guys came in to play, they never left. Well, that's how it used to be. Right now they come in. Right now they come in, they get that money and they go. But I think the community looks at it like, you know, well, you're just taking money from our community and leaving. But I've been here since 1990. I got here April 17, 1990. I haven't left. And I'm not going anywhere. And I think the reason that I do the things I do is because I want things to be better. I want community to grow. I want to understand that what I invest in is going to grow. I want to understand the things I'm investing in now, my grandkids are going to enjoy. And I think that's the that's the mindset that the guys taught me. That's why when they signed Adrian Peterson yesterday, I was happy because he's a veteran guy who understands how to do this and came in immediately, was an impact on the team, but he was always doing something in the community. Watching Vernon Davis just the other day, having a day named after him, because these guys truly do care. You know, athletes, I think, they get a bad rap because we have a few of them that are just idiots, and they mess it up for everybody else, to be totally honest with you. But the guys that are doing the things every day, you know, they understand. They understand that when my kid goes to school, I want the best schooling. You know, when my kid graduates from college and come back here, I want them to have the best opportunity. A friend of mine, Wendy, who does a lot of stuff for me, Wendy works in Dallas with data centers. But everybody talks about Loudoun County data centers, about how great it is and what's going on here and how they try to make set their tone of how trying to be like this. They send her up here all the time just to come figure out what they're doing here. You like to hear those things because the opportunities is what I'm looking for. My son is an engineer now and trying to transition into becoming more into that data area. She is giving him everything he can find, and now he's ready for it. So just knowing that when people around the country look at how this is, just like it makes me proud to hear people brag about the team when I was playing for it, I love to hear them brag about my state, brag about the county. My wife works in Loudoun. I live in Fairfax, but I'm right on the border. But to hear anybody brag about these areas, I love that. You know, it makes you feel good. It's pride.
Who has a question? Come on, you can't be all finished.
How do you get energized for the game? I know it's natural. Kind of pumped up when you're about to play any kind of competition. What are some of the things that got you psyched up?
To be honest, you'll be amazed that I listened to Whitney Houston going to the game. You know why? Because I remember in college, Coach Barry Wilson said, don't play the game before the game. And I used to be that guy that was walking around, you know, and I get in the game, I'm tired. So I kind of started listening to like Luther and Whitney going to the game because what it did, I'm ready, but I want to save everything for that game. And then once the game starts, I wish I could explain it because I remember walking down to the field and we were talking about what we were going to do after the game. I'm going out with the wife, you know, y'all should meet us, you and your girls should meet us. And as soon as I stepped on the field, I just started running. And we got to the end zone, he came and started talking to me. He said, I looked at him like he was crazy. And I didn't remember none of this. So as we walk off the field, he said, as soon as I stepped off the field, I went right back into, so we're going to go to the chart house. It's like I zoned out on the field. And I think being a smaller guy compared to those giants that I would be around, when I felt that it was every chance, the thing about my profession then was you had a chance to know where you stood every time you step out there. And that just motivated me, you know. And then my dad, with that little saying, you're Mitchell, you can do anything, that sticks with me today. Just that little, every time I get involved with something I think it's going to be a challenge, I think that and it goes away and I'm ready to go. You know, some guys, like the guy had the coach slapping him and stuff. Slap me again, I don't see blood. No, I want that. It's like I watch people do some strange things, you know. I watch guys basically go through a whole weight workout before the game. You know, you see guys throwing that big ball at the Redskins against the wall. Like, why are you making your core tired? I don't get that. But I used to like to relax more because I already knew when the game started I was going to be a little crazy.
Whitney Houston clearly worked. I'll be right there. John had a question, I believe.
Brian, I just thank you so much. This is wonderful, especially knowing how much family means to you and what you mean to the community. Just wonder if you can tell us a little about quarterback. Having played quarterback, you know it's an important position. A lot of the fans look, they see leadership right there, but it is, like you talked about, the center.
Yeah.
What about our quarterback position? What are we doing? What do you think? Where are we headed?
He had to come ask the tough questions. To be honest with you, I'm just like everybody else that's wondering.
Let me know if I can help you with this.
When Alex Smith came in, I understood that Alex is a guy who protected the football, but I also understood that the opportunities are not going to be there as much because he don't take a lot of risk. I posted a thing on Instagram this morning that say, where there is opportunity, there is risk. So if you want to accomplish things, you have to take some risk in life. And I go to Vegas every once in a while, and our little saying is scared money don't make money. So if we play the penny slots all the time, you're not gonna make a lot of money. You got to go over there to the other ones and try those. But I feel that Colt and Case are very close to being the same guys, where they both believe that they're Brett Favre without Brett Favre's arm. They're likable guys, you love them, but as a quarterback, I always felt that the quarterback is the most dependent position in all the sports. You know, we see what Tom Brady does. Tom Brady's out this world. You know, Drew Brees, out this world. Aaron Rodgers can do things that people can't do, but most quarterbacks need to have a strong team around them to be able to be good. And as I look at those two guys, I think the Redskins have to really solidify the left guard position. They have to have 2 to 3, maybe 4 legitimate backups because every year they seem to lose linemen. Adrian Peterson signing back, a running back who can also, when we watch guys, athletes, they're freaky, where 7 months, 10 months later, they're ready to go. But when you watch them on the field, they still don't do what they used to do. So Adrian Peterson being on his team allows Darius Geis a chance to really grow and get back to where he was. So when you get those guys on the team, and they need to get a legitimate receiver, I think Colt and Case can play better than what they're capable of playing. I'll just go exactly with Mark Rippon. Mark Rippon was never known as a great quarterback. But when you're sacked 9 times in 18, 19 games, only 9 times, that's like 7 on 7. You could have a lot of success. The year we won the Super Bowl, I don't think they could have put the same suit out, uniform for him every week. It was never dirty. He was never on the ground. So if they get the right people around them, they can have some success. But that $20 million that Alex is getting, you hope he can come back in 2020. I don't think 2019 is going to be possible. You know, it could be where his career could be over. But that $20 million stuck on a guy that's not on the field, that's going to hinder what they do. So now they got to figure out some keen ways to get there. I always felt put stronger people around them. If your offensive line and defensive line, which I call your transmission and your engine, if they're strong, you can go where you want to go. I use a little example. If you give me a Ferrari without an engine, you ain't going nowhere. If I give you a Gremlin with a nice Ferrari engine in it, you can go wherever you want. Now, it might be as cute, but you know what? She'd rather ride than sit down and not go anywhere. So they need to work on it. That position, that troubles me because I know that they're going to take chances, and I don't know if they're going to have a lot of success.
All right. I agree, by the way. We have a similar share in football.
Did you get to her question?
I'm going to be right there, but I just want to make another
remember.
plug. So over here we have 2 footballs, a jersey signed by Trent Williams. You all know who that is, right? The football is signed by Vernon Davis. And then we have 3 items, a mini helmet, a football, and a bum warmer.
Yeah. It's a cushion.
Thank you. Yes, signed all by Brian. And we don't have very many bids, so come on up. Come on, we won't let you out the door unless you get more bids. We will be blocking you, is that right, Brian? Oh, and I should say 2 of those items were donated by the Washington Redskins Charitable Foundation,
Yeah.
who worked with us last year in our CSR event. So thank you to them.
Hi, everybody. So my name's Kellen, and I work for Arbor Terrace, Fairfax. We're right around the corner off Route 50. We're assisted living for memory care. So every day, our frontline team comes in, they work really hard, and we never know what residents we're getting today.
So you
So-
never know what?
We don't know what residents we're getting today.
Okay.
With dementia, they can be in a bad mood. It could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be 3 days. We lose residents to death periodically. We have a lot of things that go on. So when we have particularly bad months or a week, what are some ways that we can come together as a team? Because it's really, when everybody's good and all of the residents are really good, everything's great. But when you have 3 deaths back to back, or you've got a resident who tried to hit you today because you remind them of the guy who tried to punch you in a parking lot 25 years ago, it makes it extra difficult. And I know that the Redskins and every other team has their ups and downs, and it's a bad week or like 10 weeks or 10 years.
I kind of felt that was coming.
I'm a Redskins fan. Redskins fan. But what are some good ways that we can help continue to build each other up? Because it's really hard to walk in and know that you have no idea who's going to be there tomorrow. Or if you're here today, you might not be the same person tomorrow.
That's tough. Well, I'll say this. You got into your profession because you wanted to make a difference in someone's lives, and I think you knew some of the difficulties. But I think the guys around, whoever you're working with, you all have to form a bond to make sure you have that little support group with each other. You know, I think I've never had to deal with the situation you all deal with, but I had to deal with my dad passing away and my mom passing away. And there were people I can talk to because that was my best friends, both of them, my mom and my dad. My sisters and brothers were there, but I had teammates who I allowed to be that close to me. And I talked to a lot of people who work in different aspects of, you know, that your field, and it's tough, but then the next day when they're great, it makes you forget about those things. And I think the focus has to be a little bit more, it's like when they're out there, they're not in control, and try to realize that it's not personal. But I think the group who sticks together to make sure that support is there, that should help a lot. You know, I've seen people's, like my mom and dad weren't like it when they were, but I've seen guys whose parents are going through dementia and things like that where they're not even the same people, and I watch the stress on them, so I can only imagine what you're going through, and I wish I had every answer, but I know if you got that group supporting you right there, y'all can get through it.
Hi there, Andy Hoyle with Cox Business Security Solutions. A little bit different from the other side. You're on a winning team. Everybody's doing everything right, but you hit a slump. You lose 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 games in a row. The locker room morale is just spiraling out of control. How do you right that ship to get everybody in a correct mindset so they can win again?
Well, I've been through that. So, you know, what I've always done is try to focus on what we're trying to get done. Because this is the thing, if you're in a slump and I'm saying, oh man, you got it, tomorrow is me. So you can never ever become a guy who's piling on, because all of a sudden now the mindset of the team is piling on to everybody instead of trying to get out of it. So giving a guy support, talking to him about, you know, trying to talk to find out what they see is different. Like one thing I did playing football and doing media at the same time, when someone had a bad game, I immediately went to that person and talked to him, because I know the next day I would get asked a question about what do you think about this person or that person. And I was able to answer the question in their words instead of trying to answer it in my words to where they feel I'm attacking them. Because if once a person seems like you're attacking them, like you said, misinterpreting what you're saying, then all of a sudden the goal is no longer to right the ship. The goal is now You're trying to make sure they understand that you weren't attacking them, and they are sitting up here just trying to figure out everybody's coming at me. If I just say, look, man, we all in this together. We're going to help you get out of it. And maybe, just maybe he's in a slump because some other people are not doing their job. Like when a pitcher is losing games, sometimes we go, oh, this pitcher is great. But he wasn't getting hits. The fielding has been bad. When you got to get support all around. I think that's the whole thing. Make sure one person understands it's not all on them, because it never is. I know we've seen on the Nationals where pitchers are going down, not playing well. You got batters are not getting, but it's not that one person that's causing them to lose the game. So it's always more than one. It's a team. So when you're a team together, when you're winning, you got to try to keep some semblance of that mindset when you're losing or when things are going bad as well. Now, if the person completely never gets it right, you have to get them removed. You know what they call it? Addition by subtraction.
I love that you're part of the 5 a.m. club. So are we. You know, we're all about, getting that competitive edge, getting our minds and bodies ready for the day. What's your routine when you get up at 5 a.m.?
Well, I get up and within 10 minutes I'm on that treadmill. And I'm either going to have a book in front of me or I got something in my ear, audible, where I'm trying to make sure I start my day off with a positive mindset. And that's who I was as a young man. Everything was about positivity. My motto has always been put 2 feet on the floor and I guarantee you won't fall back to sleep. People always say, I fell back to sleep. Yeah, if you're laying in the bed, you will fall back to sleep. But if you put 2 feet on the floor, stand up and start moving, you will not go back to sleep, I guarantee you. So I try to do that. And then once I'm done with listening to whatever I want to listen to, and then I immediately go to the computer where I'm either getting ready for my radio show, my TV show, and trying to prepare myself. And if I have a certain type of another thing that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get on top of that. So when I get to work, it's ready to go. And then I'll come back at home at night sometime and back on this treadmill again, because I feel when I'm constantly, because when I was in meetings, I was always writing and doodling and doing, and my coach is like, you're not paying attention. I say, Coach, I hear you. I know what you're saying, but I'm bored. So I always have to get something going on. And I think for me, I have to always be doing multiple things, always have a lot more going on, because the idle mind is the devil's workshop that I was told when I was younger. It's true. When I was young, boy, I was close. But I remember I had to deal with that little 5'8" guy that liked to box at my house, my dad, so I kind of stayed away from some trouble. Yeah.
We'll do another lunch and
But that 5 o'clock, seriously, I thought when I started getting up that early that I was going to be sleepy all day.
Man.
I got more energy now than I did when I was asleep till 8, 9 o'clock. Because my baby daughter leaves around 7:45 to go to school. And I'm done with everything, coming upstairs and doing everything. And she's like, you already worked out? Yeah, that's too early for me, Daddy. So I just love doing it. It gives me a lot of energy, too.
We have a question here.
Hi, I'm Sharon LeCain. I actually live down in the Stafford area, so I'm a realtor down there with Avery Hess. Mm-hmm. But my question for you today is as a mom. So my kiddo came to me yesterday, had no idea he had the desire to be a captain or a co-captain on his team. Mm-hmm. He's not the best player. He knows that. He goes to the coach, asks, what can I do to improve? Coach gives him advice. Season's just getting started. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for a kid that's not the best, talent-wise? He thinks, the captain's probably going to be whoever's the most talented. Yeah. What advice would you give him?
Keep working at it, because as football players, I say for sure, as a football player with me, it wasn't always the best guy that was our captain. Okay, the guy that we saw working the hardest, and normally it's a guy just like your son, like you're saying, the guy that you knew was lacking a little bit, but he never gave up. He always worked for it. People see that, and he could become the guy. Like when Rock Cartwright was here, Rock returned kicks, he wasn't the best player on the football team. He was the captain. Mike Sellers was big. He was the captain, because they were the guys that were dedicated, and then they had a purpose. Their purpose were they would speak up. They would make sure guys came together. And if you find out what a purpose is, and if his purpose is to be a captain, and that's what he want to be, don't ever let that go. Because it's not about who plays. Like right now, it's about who makes the most money. It doesn't mean you're a captain. What do you know? You know, if your son, if he knows everything and he can make sure he get people in the right place, and then the coach, your son goes to the coach and asks for advice. How many people ask a coach for advice? Most people don't ever go talk to the coach. So the coach already understands he'll come to him. He's a guy who likes to initiate things. So he can eventually become that guy, you know, and then he could be that communication gap. That's part leadership right there. You know, if the team has an issue and I can walk up to the coach and say, Coach, you know, I was talking with the team and they were thinking this, that, and the other, that's leadership. You know, leadership is not always being in front. Hey, everybody get your hands up. Leadership is a guy who takes an initiation to go out there and make sure that the team is getting everything they need and the things that they want done is accomplished. So he can be that.
Was there a question here? No? Any more?
Always ask why.
Thank you, Brian. So number 2 in the NFL in punt returns, right? So you've got some pretty impressive.
Number 1 in punt returns.
Number 1 punt returns. Yeah. Pretty impressive stats. Yeah.
Punt return touchdown, number 2, yeah.
Okay, number 2. I'll check that. so when you're doing punt returns, a lot like business, you walk in, your day may be scripted, you may have the play, but punt returns really, you're starting out fresh, and it's about you. Everybody's going to block, but what do you think about seeing the field? Because I think there are parallels to business that say, I'm starting my day, I'm looking for opportunities. There might be different things you do. Can you describe what you're thinking, how you're looking? Because it's almost the sense of feel is the way you kind of look at how you did it.
Well, punt return they call right, left, or middle, okay? And once you catch the ball, all hell breaks loose, to be honest with you. Where if they're calling the right return, where my mindset is that I'm going to run in between the left, the right, well, based on their lineup, I'm going to just look at this. It's the right wing and the right tackle. That's my hole. That hole is never there. So my mindset has always been, when I catch a ball, I'm going 5 yards right of where I catch it to 5 yards away from me. So when I hit that point and I put that foot in the ground, I'm just going to get into it then. And the reason I always start it right, because I need to make them think I'm running right, and they're going to define what they're trying to do. So now I give my blockers a chance to go out there and do what they're supposed to do. But once you get into the action, you let field take over. And I was a returner who was 221, when most of those guys are 185, 175, 190. I felt once I got into the thick stuff, I can lower my shoulder pads and I can break a lot of tackles. And it's just like life. Nothing goes how we plan it. And if it does, you better remember that day the rest of your life, because it probably won't happen again. But once you get into the thick of things is when you now have to use instincts. You have to realize, and like we always say, book sense doesn't get you everywhere. Book sense gets you into it, but street sense gets you through it. Common sense can get you through it. And I got guys like, man, we call right return. I say, well, the hole was on the left side. Once you got 10 yards away, go to that. Well, it was a right return. No, if you keep thinking it's going to happen like it happened in practice, you're in trouble. And I had a coach one time. We had this play where I'm supposed to hit, it's like a gut. I'm supposed to go inside the end, inside the tackle. And when the play happened, the end closed down. So I cut back quicker and got up the field. I scored a 47-yard touchdown. And you know the coach was arguing when I got to the sideline? You didn't press it. I said, Coach, if I press that, I'm tackled for a loss. And, you know, he has to do what coaches are doing. I'm like, Coach, you know the camera's on us. I'm not going to be the only guy being embarrassed here. So when the pitcher came, he go, oh, wow, I didn't see that. Of course. I told him, you coach from Monday to Saturday. On Sunday, I play football. And that's just like life is. You go in with the base of everything that you know, because your business will tell you how to handle this, how to handle that. But what if the person you're trying to deal with just do something opposite of what they told you the person is going to do? You can't just quit or keep trying to go along the path you were going on. You have to adjust and try to find a way to engage again to get them back where you want them to be and go. So life is about adjustments. We can't sit there and expect it to happen how we want it to happen. You know, nothing does. I didn't think I was going to have 4 kids. That's Still making me work. No, I'm joking. I love it, though.
Thanks for talking to us. Mark Werlow, managing broker for Fathom Realty. And I'm going to alienate myself from some of you. So on a leadership perspective, Foles or Wentz?
Foles or Wentz? I'm going to still go with Wentz. And the reason is because when Wentz was completely healthy, you saw what he was doing. What happened with that football team, and people don't realize, Foles jumped on when everything was working good. And all he had to do was hold on to the wheel. And then when the season started last year, where he had to start the car and throw it in gear, he didn't look good. Then he got into the playoffs, and they got on a roll. And like I said, the quarterback gets all the praise and all the blame. That team was playing better. And then when they needed him to really just come and do some things, he didn't. A lot of that comes down to Doug, the coach. Because Carson Wentz is able to do so much, you shouldn't have him do it every game. Because quarterbacks are not like, I was 5'10", I played at 5'10", 220. I'm built to take hits. You know, the way I lift, the quarterbacks, they don't lift weights like we do. They make them go in there and they do the little Richard Simmons and they go out. They're done. I'm serious. They don't work out like we do. Now, Donovan McNabb worked out like everybody else. Donovan was always lifting. But you're putting your guy in harm's way. And just like I look at when Michael Vick went to Atlanta, they didn't work on Michael becoming a better passer. They were like, if something breaks down, you know what to do. They just used his athletic ability. But what if you made Michael Vick a much better pocket passer and have more pocket presence? And then he decided to run when everybody thought he was going to pass. He would have been even more deadly. So what Nick Foles did once he got in was fake, throw. They didn't ask him to run around or do anything. But when they came with the trick play, why do you think he was so wide open? Nobody expected Nick Foles to ever run. But they will have Carson Wentz doing stuff all the time. And I think that's the whole thing about coaching also. I have a guy with exceptional talent. I need to use this at a surprise moment, not all the time. Because if you do it all the time, defensive coaches will figure you out. Ask Robert Griffin III. They figure you out quickly. I think the defensive coaches are the smartest people in sports. But those offensive coaches are innovative when it's working. Ask Sean McVay for the Super Bowl. Yeah.
When are you going to start coaching?
To be honest, never. Because this is the thing. I love coaching and consulting, but I don't think I could do anything from 7 in the morning till 10 at night. Because I love golf too much. I've always thought about being a coach. I wake up some days and say I want to be a coach, but then when I think about how much they meet, I'm like, no. That has to be tough. And, you know, I watch some coaches, they start and they have a full head of hair. Well, I don't have hair already. They have a full head of hair and it's like dark. And within months, they're just gray. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do, because at NBC Sports, all of the producers, 30 and less, they're gray. I'm like, dude, what is it? But I found out how stressful it is. Imagine they just, and they have like split seconds to get stuff right. So, nah, coaching. If they make me the head coach, because see, then you set the tone. You know, we're going to be at home by 5. Like Tony Dungy, he told him if you need to be home to eat dinner with your family. And Bruce Arians told guys, if you do not go to your son's football games and graduations and be at those things, I will fire you. Now I could work for him. Bruce Arians down in. I love coaches that understand it's something outside of football. You know, I love Coach Gibbs, and I told him all the time, Coach, I think I'd have been walking out of your meetings. He said, oh, I know you'd have fallen asleep. Well, I did that in the meetings too, but I knew my stuff before I did it. So, yeah.
All right. Okay, we're going to take one more.
Okay.
Okay, do you need a mic? Let's give you a microphone.
So are we going to see local boy Trace McSorley in a Redskins jersey?
I wish I knew that. They're different over there. Everything I think they're going to do, they do the opposite. So what I'm finding out, and what I've learned a long time, when you all hear those leaks, the leaks come from so many different directions. Like, what I learned is that if a guy wants you, they'll put out bad stuff about you so nobody else wants you. If a guy doesn't want you, they'll start praising you so somebody can go take you. And they fall for this in the NFL all the time. I don't understand it. It's believe me, I call it lying season. When you start getting close to free agency and draft, you start hearing more negative stuff about people, and it's amazing that half of it comes from the actual team that wants them. So I think the Redskins should get more people that have local ties, because you get more fanhood, you get the people caring a lot more. They grew up watching your team, they're going to want to play better. Because I watch all the guys that leave from Maryland and go other places and become great. Like, we had them right in our backyard. We never looked at them. Like Vernon finally came here. He was a guy we could have gotten right out of college, but they weren't looking. So we'll see.
All right.
All right. Appreciate it.
Brian?